Friday morning, can't control it. Fired up and counting every minute. Hands are shaking, eyes are burning. The time has come, yeah, this is not a warning. The week was just so long, we had to let it go. Our problems disappeared, we're not tied up anymore. The weekend is here. Sunday calls, we are sick and tired of it. Up and down, can you feel it? Up and down.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Johansson show. I'm joined by one half of the Heatseekers, Sigmon. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, thank you for having me. How's your day going?
Not too bad. Just typical dull English weather. Still
Or not
very,
time. It is over there now, right? Yeah.
yeah, we're still very locked down as well here in England. So there's no wrestling or still not allowed to go see family. And
Oh,
it's,
no. Yeah.
yeah,
Not
it's,
what's going on, huh?
how's things your end?
It's better. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
Things have opened up. A lot of the states now will have wrestling. Some are more restricted than others. Some you can't have a crowd. Some people are, some events, depending on the state, is wide open. They'll show up, and it's Wild West. There's no masks, no rules. So those are a little bit trickier to navigate around.
Yeah.
But things overall are okay. They're getting better. The vaccine rollout over here is working efficiently, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed, we might be starting to improve a little bit and be able to open things back up even more. I guess that just depends on how the next couple months go, but we'll see how it goes. I'm hopeful.
How's it been affecting for yourself? Because I know there's some people where they've been stop start because of the pandemic, but there's some where they've only just started getting going in 2021. How's it been for yourself?
When the pandemic first hit and we first got that initial lockdown,
Yeah.
it was hard. It was very hard because we were going from a 3 to 4 day a week with shows to nothing. And we went, I think, 6 weeks without a show.
Yeah.
Thankfully, there were some areas that were still able to do like no crowd, kind of like the internet live stream thing. And we were able to hop on a few of those within the first couple months of the pandemic. And then things kind of tightened back up. Luckily, I have a pretty good job I do on the regular side now with a company called Noom. But there's so many guys that didn't have that option, that were relying solely on independent wrestling to put food on the table. So, I have a lot of friends that went through a very, very rough time. A few months into it, things started opening back up in some of these states. Whether you agree with that should have happened or not, it did. And, we were able to pick up a few shows here in Tennessee. South Carolina is another place we were able to do some, in Georgia. But then some states are still total shutdown with events. North Carolina just now opened up. And Kentucky is just now starting to kind of open things back up too. So it depends on where you're at here in the United States in terms of what you're able to do. But it's been tough, and it's kind of hard too, because you get so used to being on the road 3 or 4 days a week or more, and then you go through that period of not wrestling for a while, and your body gets used to not taking the bumps and sitting in a car or plane for a very long time. And then when that finally starts picking back up, like it has for a lot of us now, just trying to get your body used to those activities again and get mentally prepared for the travel and stuff again is tough, because lockdown hasn't been fun. I know you're still locked down, so I'm sure you're going stir crazy, but it is good that I have a 2-year-old daughter, so I've been able to spend a lot of time with family. And you get used to being with family every day, and then you change it up again, and it's tough to get back out on the road. But we're fortunate. Things have been okay. None of us have, at least in my close circle, have been sick too bad. Like I said, the vaccine rollout's going okay here, and I've got my first round of the Moderna, and then my tag partner Elliot has 2, And
Yeah.
so we are, we're kind of doing well with that and trying to get back to normal. It's tough.
No, it's going to take a while, and I think it's been a hard year for most people. And it's good to see that America are opening up, especially in some of the states, like you mentioned, because I think here in the UK, apart from Progress and ICW, because they're affiliated with WWE, and WWE can give them all that money to make sure you're getting the testing and the hotels and making sure the social distancing, we're not getting any of the shows. And hopefully things are starting to ease back up again, and some people are trying to book shows for like the summer, so hopefully they can go ahead.
Now,
But I'm right in
those
thinking,
events that you guys have going on, or the WWE affiliated events, are they able to have any kind of crowd, or is it still just
no
studio?
crowds, no crowds because of government guidelines. So we opened up a little bit where football, for American listeners, soccer. So we'd say soccer, but yeah, when those opened up and crowds started going back in, and we had that for a couple of months just before, I think around October time, and then before we know it, there's a new strain, and everywhere that was allowed to have these matches put on and stuff like that, all of a sudden we're getting shut down just before Christmas. So
Yeah.
I was fortunate that where I lived, we was in a tier where I could still go to my family's for Christmas Day. But originally, we were supposed to go to my fiance's, which is a 5-hour drive, other side of England, and we couldn't go because they weren't allowed to even see each other. And so Christmas had got ruined for quite a lot of people. So yeah, it's no crowds for them. And then it's been going on to like the WWE network and things like that. So it's been good for some of the talent that are working for those companies. And I think Rev Pro have been doing some like no fan shows, but unless you've got the backing behind these big companies, it's not feasible, really.
Yeah, it's tough. A lot of these countries too that we will do business with. We'll go up in Canada a lot, and then we'll do Japan like once or twice a year. Those have been off limits. We've not been able to cross the borders and leave. Our passports are pretty much unusable at the moment. So that's been kind of tough too, because I like seeing new cultures and things and hanging out with some of my friends around the world, and that's been kind of tough too. But hopefully things improve for all of us soon.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned Japan. I know you just got back from Japan before the pandemic hit.
Yeah, we were actually over there in late February of 2020, and COVID had just started becoming a thing, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't know truly how bad it was, how bad it was going to get, and all the people in Japan were starting to prep for it. They're wearing masks everywhere. They have signs up in the hotels and things. And we're just thinking, they're overreacting at the time. And so we're kind of making light of the situation. And then we get back to the States, and when we land, they had started initiating some of the border procedures, and then we realized how serious it was going to be. And we're lucky to probably have gotten out of there when we did, I guess. But it was that was a crazy week.
I can imagine. Was Japan something you've always wanted to do? Again, your partner Elliot Russell, like you go out there. Am I right in thinking you faced Rick Steiner out there recently?
Yeah, one of the I think we actually retired Rick Steiner in Tokyo. His last wrestling match was in Tokyo against us, which is really cool. Japan was always one of my wrestling bucket list things.
Yeah.
It was something I thought we'd never actually get to make happen. And now we've gone, I think, 5 or 6 times over there. And it's awesome. I love Japan. I love the culture. I love the food. The people are so respectful, and they truly appreciate what we do, and they treat it like a sport still over there.
Yeah.
And I'd move over there if I could. It's a great place. But yeah, that was such a big goal of ours, was to get over there, and of mine just personally, and to be able to do that and like go to Ribera Steakhouse and get the jackets and just live that life for a little bit is a dream come true. Like 7-year-old me would just be ecstatic.
Yeah.
And so I'm very fortunate for our trips over there, and hopefully, we get to do some more. We've had 2 cancel, that we were supposed to do, and those are hard. Getting those calls, it's like, oh, we can't do this trip now. Makes you just want to sit in the corner and cry a little bit.
Definitely. But when you went out there, then I think 2019, and you're getting told you're going to be Rick Steiner's last ever match. Like, when it comes to tag wrestling, the Steiner brothers were next level. They really were, and probably ahead of their time. Like, before Scott turned into like the big Papa Pump Rick, but when them two was at it, you could put them in any era, and they're gonna.
You could. They were just big tough guys, and they were shoot wrestlers.
Yeah,
and they could go with anybody, and they did. They went through Japan and all of WCW and WWF, and they were able to really hang with anybody that was in the ring with them.
Yeah,
and we've been fortunate, to work with both Rick and Scott over the years several times, and then other teams, Rock and Roll Express and Midnight Express, and just so many awesome. We did a lot with Road Warrior Animal too, and we've been very fortunate with the people that we've been able to learn from and wrestle with. And yeah, Rick is one of the best. He's also a really funny guy too. So we had a lot of fun over on that Japan trip as well. He acts like a giant kid. So
it's great. Somebody in the 60s still acting like a child. That's what you want.
I hope that when I'm his age, I can still move around somewhat decent and do it a little bit. Yeah.
Well, you dropped quite a lot of like names there, and some of the people that I'd seen as well, like Grandmaster Sexy and Rikishi, and like who was your favorite ones to work with out of like some of these big stars, and some of the best advice you got? Because again, you've just spilled out a who's who of tag team wrestling over different decades.
When I was first breaking in to wrestling, I was trained by Dr. Tom Pritchard, and in my opinion, he's the best trainer in the world. And he did a lot of tag team wrestling over the years as the Heavenly Bodies, and so that was always kind of ingrained in me. And growing up as a kid, I was always a fan of tag team wrestling more than I was singles wrestling. Now, I loved Ric Flair and Sting, Hogan, Benoit, William Regal. I loved all those guys as singles wrestlers, right? Yeah. But there was always something about tag team wrestling, watching Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, Heavenly Bodies, Road Warriors, and others, that it's just something different, and it always would get me hooked more than any other kind of wrestling. So, getting to work with some of our heroes, like some of the ones that I mentioned, it's been great, and just being able to sit under the learning tree and see what works, what doesn't, and getting critiques from some of these great tag teams have been awesome. And you can learn something every day. I go into every day wanting to learn something from all my situations, right? And so those experiences are priceless, and we've learned a lot of great knowledge. A lot of it being to slow down. A lot of guys, they want to just go as fast as possible, and slow down is probably the best advice I've ever got, because you want to let what you're doing out there register with the people, and you want to be able to soak it up and figure out where you're at and what can happen next. So slowing down is probably the best advice I've got over the years.
Definitely. Throughout your career, you have held so many different titles from so many different companies, tags and singles, and a lot in the NWA. Like, before we get into it, like, what's your stance on titles? Do you see it as just a prop, or do you take it as an honor? Where's your stance on it?
It depends on the company and how much respect that they put into their titles and whatnot. When we won the NWA World Tag Team titles, that meant something awesome to me. Because as a kid growing up, that was the cream of the crop for me growing up and watching wrestling. So it's because they were treated with respect too. And there's a lot of companies that do treat their titles just like props or throwaways or whatever. But if you can make them mean something, then that's different, and that it means a lot when a company is willing to put us in that position and give us the chance to do some good business, and draw some money with with the tag team goal. If we can make it worth something,
Yeah.
So each situation is different, but I always respect when a company is willing to let us have that opportunity. So it's always an honor, and we try to make the most of it everywhere we are. So
Yeah. Early in your career, you was teaming with David Young, but then again, you're part of the Heatseekers with Elliot Russell. Like, how did that transition go from you teaming with David to then now
so
teaming with Elliot?
David was working for TNA for a good while, and he was tagging with Elix Skipper as Diamonds in the Rough.
Yeah.
And Elix ended up quitting wrestling and going to pursue other businesses, and David stuck around. And so then I started traveling with David, and we tagged for 3 years. And that was a really fun experience. David is one of the best guys in the wrestling business, very underrated. He taught me a whole lot.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of fun, but he had injuries piling up pretty bad with knees and back and stuff. So I eventually stopped tagging with David, did some single stuff again for a couple years, and I met Elliot, and I started training Elliot, and then I sent Elliot over to Dr. Tom to kind of finish up.
Yeah.
Elliot started traveling with me all the time, and we were wrestling each other every night for a year or so. And it got to the point where we're like, we're traveling together all the time. Let's just start doing the tag thing. And so we've been tagging now 8 years, a little over. I truthfully, probably on the independents, we are one of the longest reigning tag teams that hasn't stopped. We've not had a moment where, we've parted ways or turned on each other or anything like that. We've just stuck with the tag team wrestling thing, and that's been good for us over the years.
Definitely, and it kind of what set up this interview. I told you before we started recording, the post that you made where you've both got 5 different title belts, and you've put it in the best in capitals unsigned tag team.
Yeah.
What prompted you to tweet that out?
I'll throw out tweets like that from time to time, but I don't tweet anything that I don't think is not true.
Yeah.
So, truthfully, right now, I think we are the best unsigned tag team in independent wrestling today. There are amazing tag teams out there. The problem you see, though, is a lot of them are just 2 guys thrown together for a short period of time, and that's in every company.
Yeah.
They'll just throw guys together. They tag for 3 months, get whatever story they were trying to get over, and then throw them away. But then you have a lot of really good tag teams that have stuck through it together for a very long time. The Young Bucks, FTR, even old tag teams like the Dudleys and stuff. They stuck together, and on the independents, it's tough. It was hard initially to get us booked because promoters would rather not put tag team wrestling on, in the budget, and they'd rather just throw 2 guys together if they wanted a tag match. But once we got over that hump and started getting ourselves over a little bit, that became something I was really proud and hard working on, was trying to build up our tag team. Now, there's a lot of teams out there that are on the independents and have been for a little while that are still very good, but we've stood the test of time. And we've been around the world, and we gain respect just about everywhere we go, and I'm very proud about that. So I think we are the best tag team in independent wrestling unsigned, and then hopefully, you never know what can happen in the next couple months to year or whatever. We might get an opportunity to sign somewhere. We'll see.
Yeah. No, definitely, and like those title belts. Then what belts were they?
So there's several companies. Like I told you, we're always proud to have the opportunity to represent. Right now, we hold the PWX tag team titles. They're based out of North Carolina. They do a lot of business with your buddy John Schuyler. You said you mentioned or you'd hung out with a little bit. So we have the PWX tag team titles. We have the Innovate United States tag team titles. That's a company based in Tennessee. We also have AMW Wrestling in Kentucky. It's in the so in Kentucky you have southeastern side of Kentucky going into kind of Virginia, a little bit of Tennessee. There's a company that does a lot of good regional work through that area. So we have those. Some of the other ones. Oh gosh, we have like 7 or 8 right now. So in the picture that you were talking about, I think we only had 5 at the time because that's all we could carry in the bags that day. But yeah, so there's so many good companies throughout the independents in the United States that really put forth the effort to producing a good product. And some of these companies may not all the way, be crazy well known in across all the social media world, but in their region they do pretty good business. So we're always happy to help and do good work.
Definitely. And you mentioned PWX, and that's one of them. Like, anybody that's been there sings the praises. Like I mentioned, Nathan Cruz went across there and he was friends with John. And when I got the chance to interview John, he mentioned all about PWX. And was it the Revolt that you just took the belts off?
Yeah. So we took the belts off the Revolt. I think we're going to be working with them again next month.
Yeah.
PWX is a wonderful company, though. They treat their events like big events, and they try to put forth the best product that they can at the time. They've done really good work throughout North and South Carolina in the United States. They've teamed up with New Japan on some projects and events, and a lot of really, really good talent has come through there over the years. Cedric Alexander, AJ Styles has passed through. You got the Revolt, just amazing talent all throughout the whole brand, and we're happy to be a part of that company.
So with like 7 or 8 different companies giving you their tag titles, why do you think you are unsigned? Because so many companies are giving you, so much.
A lot of it is a lot of it's timing on stuff, right place, right time. We've burned a few bridges over the years in the past. It happens. It's wrestling. You can't make everybody happy. So I mean, that plays into it too. And some of it can be just effort on our part at certain times. Maybe wasn't at the top of the list at the moment, but I don't know. It's wrestling is all sorts of unknowns, and but thankfully, we still do a pretty good job at making a living with the current business and the independents. They do treat us good. At the end of the day, I don't have to be a signed wrestler to feel accomplished and provide for my family. So that would be lovely. I would not turn it down by any means if we came across a good opportunity to sign somewhere and do some bigger business. Main goal. Anybody that tells you they don't want to wrestle for WWE, if they haven't done so already, they're probably lying. Because even if you go there for 6 months to a year, you can ride that out on the independents or across other companies pretty well. So never say never. I would gladly head over to NXT or AEW or MLW or even go back up to NWA. They're doing some fun stuff again, and so we might head back up that way sometime in the future. But yeah, I don't know. It could be Elliot too. I don't know. Maybe people don't like Elliot.
Throw him under the bus.
He listens to terrible music, and he can get on people's nerves from time to time.
Now, hopefully, like sooner or later, one of those opportunities will come. But like you said, you're still being treated well. You're getting to go to Japan quite frequently. You mentioned Canada earlier, and I actually had, it's not been released yet, but Robin Lakeem came on the show, and he's been with CWE, Danny Duggan's company in Canada, and he said it's very like old school feel. Like,
it's amazing. Danny, I think I've done 15 or 20 CWE tours, and there's nothing like it. It's the closest thing to like the old territory system that you can do anymore. Because Danny, when I first started, it was like 10 to 12 day tours. Now Danny runs like 35-day, 40-day tours all across, pretty much from the middle of Canada west.
Yeah.
And it's Saskatchewan, Manitoba, British Columbia. Like he hits up every spot, and it's really cool because every night you're somewhere else. And so you stay at the hotel, you wake up the next morning, you drive to the town, you get a workout in or something, hang out, maybe do some media, whatever Danny needs at the time. You go do the show, you hit up like the restaurant after party thing, stay at the hotel and wake up, do it all over again. And it's the closest thing to a really old school territory system that I've experienced in a long time. And everybody pretty much that does those tours loves them.
Yeah.
It's because it's just a good experience. It's a great learning experience too for a lot of guys because and when I go on those tours, I'll take, a carload of younger guys that need some polishing up a little bit.
It's the repetition.
Yeah, it's a great experience for them to work, for 20, 30 days straight and get some experience in front of a crowd. And Danny does some limited kind of TV stuff too. So those are all great learning tools for up and coming wrestlers. And Danny's really put the time and effort into building up something that it's known all around the world.
Yeah.
He's it's something special too. So yeah, he's worked really hard on that, and he should be proud.
No, definitely, and it's great. Like when I was speaking to Robin about it, and like some of the stories he'd saying, it's very similar to like All Star Wrestling here, where it seems like there isn't that many places other than WWE where you can go and you're going to be on the road, going from town to town and getting all those matches in. But then there's All Star, and now with CWE in Canada, it seems like that's the case. Like Robin was saying, that's his priority. Like he'll take bookings elsewhere, but if Danny gives him a call and was like, right, we've got this tour, you come in, like he's going. Like, then
it's great, and you're the exposure you get off of it too from Danny's shows. Canada is now a good zone for me because I can go up there and make some money, and merchandise sells really well there every town because most of these towns Danny runs in Canada, they have nothing else going on. So when wrestling comes to town, it draws big time, crowds. So always fun to go up there. And like you were saying, the All-Star Wrestling over there, they still do like the summer tours where they're
all the time. There's All-Star and there's a couple more companies that are doing it now. But
that's cool. Yeah. I've never been to England. We've been fortunate to do like all the United States and Canada and China and Japan and whatnot, but England has always avoided me, and I'm trying to maybe head over there when things improve. We'll see.
Definitely. You mentioned China. What was that experience like? Who was you out there with?
So there's a promoter we work for here in the United States named Ricky Nelson. He runs Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, and he sets up some overseas tours from time to time, and that happened to be one of them. It was scary. I'm not going to lie. You're going into a country where you don't really know what you're getting into, with it being pretty restricted, a communist country. We were treated great, I have to say. But, the life is different over there a little bit. Wrestling did really good business for us. We were, one of the first to run certain areas of China with professional wrestling. And we had a good crew with us. We did some really good business over there, but it's a different world. But it's one of those experiences too, where you get to see just kind of how small the world is, and you realize no matter where you go, it doesn't matter what country you're going to, and you can see on at least American mainstream news and stuff will push heavy propaganda about how bad certain places of the world are. But when you go to a lot of these places, you see the people there are the same as everywhere else. Yeah. We're all the same. And most people are just trying to make it day to day and enjoy life and live life to the fullest that they can. So, and that was another good experience for us, is just to see different cultures and just see, how people are just going day to day surviving and trying to make the most of life. But it was a scary experience. There were some situations over there that got a little tense, but nothing too bad.
What like?
We had security with us a lot. There was military police around a lot of the places we were going.
Yeah.
We would see people get pretty roughed up by the police over there for, not doing much of anything at all. So that was kind of scary. There were some situations where we'd be going to a certain part of town, and our guides with us would be like, "No, we need to stay away from here. Let's go back to the hotel." And then you find out something pretty rough had happened, and it and the food over there, most of the part was good, but there were some times when I'd be at our hotel one night. I was putting like what I thought was like beef and stuff on the plate because that's what the sign said. But then like a lady come up, she's like, "No, no, no real beef, no real beef, don't eat." And I was like, "Well, I'm probably gonna be sick later," but it was good.
So, going back to like CWE, who do you enjoy working the most when you're on those tours?
The cool part about it is Danny on the CWE tours keeps a pretty solid group of guys that are very easy to work with. Um, I try to be one of the easiest people that you can work with as well, and I try to be able to work and have a good time um, with anybody I get in the ring with. But my good buddy Chase Owens is somebody I always love doing the tours with and traveling with in general. We always have a fun time on those tours. Danny himself. I love wrestling Danny. Most of the tours I go up there now, 9 times out of 10, I'm probably working Danny on the tours just because it's so easy and we connect pretty well in the ring and do good business together. So uh, it's always like I said, he's got a great crew. Most of the places, with we work these days because we can pick and choose most of the
Yeah.
places we're wrestling these days in the United States and Canada and stuff. And we've been pretty lucky with the talent that we're able to lock up with. Um, Nobody is too hard to deal with for the most part that we get to work with, and I try to avoid getting hurt at all at all costs. So we're pretty selective on some things, but we're, the crews we travel with, the companies we work for, pretty much keep a good list of talent that can work pretty well.
Oh, brilliant. You mentioned Chase Owens
Yeah.
from like when I was doing a lot of research. You guys singles matches everywhere for
Yeah.
years and years and years and years. Like, when did you first meet?
I met Chase in 2008, maybe something like that. And we were pretty much married on the road for years. there was there was a couple of years where we wrestled each other, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah.
We've had like 1,200 matches together, something ridiculous. Yeah, he's one of my best friends in the wrestling business, and he's doing amazing stuff too. I was with him just this weekend, and he's really knocking it out of the park over there with the Bullet Club stuff in Japan. So, yeah, great guy.
Um, what are some of your favorite matches with Chase then, or is it just like riding a bike and?
At this point, it's like riding a bike. We have our. It's not the same match every night, right? Because we like to feel the crowd and kind of judge, but we can go out there and wrestle each other without even saying a word.
Yeah.
And we know each other like the back of our hand now. So, some of my favorite ones I've had with Chase. I wrestled him in China. That was a fun night because it was something different environment for us. That was a cool one. I've had some really good matches with Chase on Danny's tours. Um, we do 30, 40, 50-minute matches like it's nothing. And it's always solid because Chase is an amazing wrestler. He could be a wonderful baby face. He can be a great heel. So it's always good to lock up with him. But yeah, there's been many. Some of them are on YouTube. Some of them are just lost in time too. We'll never see again. But yeah, he's great.
How did you find the Inoki dojo? I know you wrestled. Did you do
Yeah,
some training, or was it just wrestling on one of the
so
shows?
I did when the Noki Dojo had the USA Dojo. We went out there and I went out there in 2006 when it was the New Japan Dojo.
Yeah.
For like a training tryout, whatever. That went terribly. I had just broken the business. I was only in a little over a year. It was a great learning experience because I realized how much I needed to step up my game.
Yeah.
So it was invaluable experience. But it went terrible, horrible. So I went back the following year. It had switched over to the Inoki Dojo, and it was linked with 01 at the time, and that went a lot better. I was able to train and learn, and I was in a lot better shape. And
Yeah.
I think we ended up doing some shows out there too. Got to work with Masato Tanaka, and that was fun. Um, but that's been a little while. But man, that was a lot of fun times back in the day, and great teaching tools. There's so many wonderful ways guys can learn if they just apply themselves and invest in themselves. You got to look at every move that you make in wrestling as an investment in your future, and just like any other trade or profession. The Inoki Dojo trips were some of that for me. The Harley race camps every year were a really important teaching tool for me as well. I made a lot of connections and learned a lot from those, and I think they still do those out in Harley's camp in Missouri every year. And those are great because they get guys from around the world that you can connect with and learn from. Les Thatcher does some amazing seminars that guys should invest in and learn, because he's also one of the best trainers in the world, and it has brought up a lot of great talent. And I've been fortunate enough to always learn from all these guys and try to learn more each day and apply myself. And I suggest everybody do so, because you learn something new every day. But it's just like any other profession. Like I was saying, there's something you can grab from each of these experiences and styles and trainers and teachers that you can add to your routine, mindset, and whatnot. But a lot of guys these days aren't willing to do that. It's a shame.
No, you see it all the time. Like I've seen it here in the UK, where somebody will be going through the academy, and then they'll be training, and then they get booked for a show outside of the company that they've been in the academy for, and then before you know it, they stop going to the gym, they stop going training because they think they're a pro wrestler now because they've got this one booking, and it's frustrating. Like with that, like you've just shown any opportunity you will go there to try and learn more, because you can always learn. You can be 20 years in the business, but still there's going to be somebody that knows something you don't, or that fresh pair of eyes like, oh, well, you're doing this well, but if you change it this way, then
I travel a lot with Rock and Roll Express. Me and Elliot do, which is great. But Ricky Morton is one who's been in wrestling for like 4 or 5 decades now, a very long time. And he still sits and watches most of the matches, and he still talks about how he's still picking up things to improve on and learn, and ways to connect with people and freshen things up. If Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express is still taking time to try to learn something or improve a piece of the craft, not that he has to, he's already amazing, right? But if he's still taking the time to do that, absolutely nobody has any ground to stand on thinking that they can't learn more. So, yeah.
100%. That's surreal. Like, because again, you think it'd be somebody what he knows everything. It'd been around, like you said, decades. But the fact, and it's a true example though, because wrestling does change, in different places their audience will prefer different things. So even if you have been in the business for however many years, it's still always good to go try and pick up those little bits.
It is cool to try to pick up stuff, and wrestling, different environments and different crowds will react to and appreciate different things. Elliot and myself are more old school, psychological, tag team wrestlers. We're not really like the high flying, crazy spot fest matches. I don't find anything wrong with those, right? It's Tom Pritchard says wrestling's like ice cream. There's vanilla, there's chocolate, there's Rocky Road, but at the end of the day, it's all ice cream, and it depends on what the people are wanting at the time. But the cool part about us is, we can go to some of the shows that normally have all the boom, 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 high spot matches, right? We'll go out and do our thing and we'll stand out really big because we do something different than the rest of the card. And you know, there's some times where we are wrestling some of the more high flying wrestlers and kind of boom, 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 and we'll kind of meet them in the middle. We'll slow them down just a little bit, and we'll pick up our pace just a tad. But there's something out there for everybody. That's the cool part about wrestling too. It doesn't matter what you're a fan of. There's something out there for you, and that's why the business is just amazing because there's opportunity for everybody out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Who are the teams that you're hoping to face then? Because the way you're describing like your style and your mentality,
Yeah.
the first thing that screams out is FTR.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's the one that we would really like to make happen within the next, couple of years at least. Simply because they respect pro wrestling at the foundation.
Yeah.
They have massive respect for tag team wrestling. They have massive, massive respect for the history of the business and the people that have paved the way to get to where they are. And we're in that same boat. And we have a very, very similar mindset when it comes to tag team wrestling in general and how it should be done. So, I mean, I think we would connect really good with those guys. We could probably do some pretty solid business, especially in some old school areas like the Carolinas here in the United States and whatnot. So I'm hoping that can happen at some point. I would like to wrestle the Young Bucks simply because, people can agree with how they do things or disagree, like them, hate them, but they are one of the top tag teams in the world because they've taken their style and they've got over massively, and they are on top of their game. And so that would be another fun one to do. Motor City Machine Guns are two guys that I've never had a chance to share the ring with, which surprisingly, out of all the guys we've wrestled over the years, so those are two that I would love to wrestle. MLW has the Von Erichs, the younger sons of the Von Erichs. I think we could have some fun with them too. So there's so many tag teams out there. We've been very fortunate to wrestle some of the absolute best tag teams that have ever graced the professional wrestling ring. But there's a lot of current tag teams that are at the top of their game that we would like to lock horns with as well. So
100%. And when you're thinking of like all these old school tag teams, and you mentioned Motor City Machine Guns, and obviously with Shelley's injury, Sabin had been with Storm doing stuff together. Yeah. I'd seen a clip of Impact where it shows Chris Harris and Canada. Yeah. I think that's something everybody's been wanting for quite a while, for Chris Harris to properly get back into things. Yeah. If America's Most Wanted do.
Oh yeah, that would be great. We traveled a lot with James, and I've wrestled him several times, and he's amazing. He's a great guy, very funny. Damn good worker though. He really goes out every night and delivers 110%. I don't know if Chris Harris, if his if injuries have piled up or how his body's feeling these days. If he does come back and does a few matches here and there, that would be a fun one. Because kind of like with FTR, they take wrestling pretty serious.
Just gets it.
Yeah, they get it, and they know what works and what don't. And I think we would click pretty well with them at this point, especially. So that would be a fun one.
In some of the companies you're working for at the moment, then, which one do you think that match would slot in well with?
That could probably work just about anywhere because we do click well. I've never worked with Chris Harris, but we do click well with James Storm. James Storm here in the States and maybe over in England too. He's pretty over just about everywhere. So
when he comes over here, everybody loves him.
It would definitely draw well, and I think we're going to click with them pretty much no matter where it's at. That would be a fun one for PWX, though, I think, if we could make that happen, or maybe even go to Impact to do that one. That would be fun.
Is there any teams, again, because you mentioned there's some companies where they may be known across America, and obviously there's some smaller companies that may not be the internet darlings and stuff like that. Is there any teams or even single wrestlers that you enjoy working with that maybe not get the recognition they deserve or the spotlight that they get?
There's several. Everywhere we go, there's hardworking talent. PWX has some really good young guys right now that are coming up. Lucky Ali is one you need to keep an eye on from PWX. He is absolutely tearing it up. PWX also has guys like James Drake, who are, he's doing a lot of AEW now, but he's just a wonderful, wonderful talent. Tag teams, there's a lot out there. We tend to get stuck with a lot of the more experienced traveled tag teams, but guys like the Revolt, I know Caleb Conley's doing a lot of Impact nowadays, and his partner Zane does a lot of wrestling business, but he's doing a lot of TV stuff for some upcoming projects and things like that. So that they're not traveling together as much anymore. But I mean, they're a really solid team together. NWA has some good talent as well. I don't know if they're tagging crazily at the moment, but the War Kings, which is Crimson and Jack Stain, they're really good monsters together. They're really good sized guys. In the Carolinas, one of the best tag teams outside of us is the Dawson brothers. I don't know if you've seen them. They're over at AML Wrestling. They're really,
were they on the original NWA Power when that came back? Yeah.
Yes,
they
did a couple episodes of that. But they're really good brothers, and they're a really damn solid tag team as well. And we've had really good matches with them over the years too. But they're underrated. They need a bigger look as well.
Yeah. Oh no, that's great. Is there? You mentioned England, but is there any other countries you kind of want to tick off that list?
I want to go all across Europe, really. England would be great. I'd really love to wrestle in Germany.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big fan of some of the wrestling Germany's had over the years. South Africa, maybe. I've never done anything in Africa. I've known some pretty solid shows in South Africa that have happened. Thankfully, we've got to wrestle in a lot of places. It's just that Europe, just Europe there is off limits. We had a tour lined up for I think it was Ireland last September, and then it got canceled because of COVID. I was kind of looking forward to that.
Who was that with?
That was another one with Ricky Nelson, who took us to China. Who had lined up a thing for Ireland, but unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be, I guess. So I love seeing new places and new cultures and meeting people from all these different areas and things, and trying the food. I love food. I love food from all over the world. And Europe is one I've been really trying to knock out, and hopefully we make it happen. But we'll see.
There's a lot of good teams over here, to be honest, especially when you mentioned Ireland. There's a team, Kings of the North, who are regarded as one of the best teams here in the UK and the Irish wrestling scene. And as soon as you mentioned that's the match I envisioned for you both, were Kings of the North, because a lot of people are saying they're probably the best unsigned team across here. So
then on your show, I issue an open challenge to Kings of the North. Got to make that happen. And I'm always looking for new tag teams to kind of check out and study a little bit. So I'll look them up. Yeah, that's great.
No, definitely. What's next for yourself then? What's next for you and Elliot?
We've been taking things kind of day by day with the pandemic and everything going on. Luckily, our schedule is picked back up. I think next week we've got 4 shows.
Oh, wow.
So business is getting better here. We've got bookings coming in. I think October is the latest. I've got a booking on the calendar for now. So things are starting to shape back up a little bit. Trying to get to a place where we can get just a little bit more exposure, whether that be signing somewhere or just doing some TV for Impact again, MLW, hopping back over to NWA or WWE, NXT, whatever. Just getting that extra little bit of exposure so we can make more out of it on the independents is something that is kind of a target of ours at the time. How that happens, where we go, I don't know yet. We'll see how the cards fall as the year goes on. But right now, just trying to make the most of our independent stuff. Really trying to build up some of these companies that we're with, and PWX is a big one for us this year that we're really trying to help them step up the game overall. Just kind of seeing where all that goes. Nothing's promised. None of us have tomorrow promised. So just making the most of each day, and fingers crossed, some good comes of it.
Yeah, I agree. Like, there is so many options out there, and I think what AEW have been doing with Dark, and now they've got Elevation Dark, and just giving people that opportunity, and even if they don't get signed, but they just get that couple of matches.
Yeah, it's been really good for a lot of people on the independents that have got to go there and get seen on their TV or their YouTube TV stuff, like the Dark, like you were talking about. I'm all for any company that can get some exposure and giving people work, especially during a pandemic. It's really cool to see companies trying to help everybody out, and AEW is doing a really good job with that. Impact is doing a really good job with that with a lot of guys too. Just trying to get people some work that otherwise they'd be sitting at home and worried about some money, and this is helping bring awareness to a lot of talent that deserve it. So
who would be that dream opponent? Well, if they may have retired by now, but if there was that one dream match of Heatseekers versus a tag team, who would that be?
That's a tough question. We've wrestled with Rock and Roll Express 100 times, right?
Yeah.
But to do it in like 1985 would be amazing. In a packed arena in the Carolinas or somewhere. That would be a dream match of mine because we always connect with them. They still work really hard with us. But just having that one extra step of that added environment would be just amazing. So that would probably be a dream match. I've always wanted singles wrestling wise to work William Regal. So maybe a situation where even me and Elliot against William Regal and Bobby Eaton when they were doing the Blue Bloods or something would be a fun one for me. But I'm pretty easygoing when it comes to that kind of stuff. I've been very fortunate to have wrestled a lot of the talent that I wanted to.
Yeah.
If you're a wrestler and you don't say like Ric Flair or Hulk Hogan, I don't know what you're doing with your life. You would be stupid to say how cool it would be to be in a huge arena at like a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam against Hogan, just putting heat on Hogan, and just having that emotional investment and reaction from a crowd, the adrenaline rush from putting heat on Hogan and watching that comeback and being right in the ring for it would be something really, really cool too. So Dusty Rhodes as well. There's so many situations that could just be the example. It's only wrestling. But yeah.
How do you think wrestling's changed? Again, it's great. There's so many opportunities, but a lot of places, maybe the psychology has died down a bit, and a lot of things go quite spot festy. And Edge, there's a quote from him where he's on about German suplexes, and he doesn't understand why somebody takes a German suplex and fires up, because even when you're firing yourself up, that still hurts. So you might as well just sell it because it genuinely hurts. Like
it really hurts, and guys make it so hard on themselves this day. Like I was telling you earlier, we try to be psychologically sound as possible because that was what was ingrained. Like Tom Pritchard was like, in training, that kick didn't mean anything, or yelling at us during matches or whatever. So we always try to keep it as psychologically sound as possible. It has changed. It's changed for the good. It's changed for the bad. Internet did massive harm and massive good for it. WWE can't run the same house show card every night. And, now everybody knows the results of everything. They don't run house shows anymore, but when they were doing it and the internet started picking up, but like so much got exposed that it really hurt mainstream attention on things. And, now the other problem is now anybody can say, hey, I'm a wrestler, and put footage of themselves wrestling online, and it can be terrible. And then some generic fan will see that clip and go, oh, this is what wrestling is these days, and never watch it again. So that's done, but it's done good. I mean, we've improved the locker room. Guys are taking better care of their health, their mental health, taking better care of their money.
Yeah.
The situations with the way talent is treating women and the LGBT community and stuff has changed dramatically, as well it should. And that's some of the good stuff that has come out of this. There's still a lot of work to be done to improve the business in some of those aspects, but it is changing, and people are making some really good moves with that. Um, if it were me, I wish we could have some of those positive changes and find a time machine and go back and just still live in like the 80s when fans just wanted to sit and watch wrestling and not pick it all apart and have it's okay to have opinions and whatnot. And I try not to dig too much into this because, somebody will get mad at me or whatever, but I miss it just when people were able to sit back and entertain and just have a good time, a good night watching wrestling. Yeah. And now they just want to be involved and everything and have their opinion shared and whatever. So the good and the bad, it changes every day. It changes for the better for the most, I guess. People are still making money. Wrestling's still drawing. WWE is making record profits off of streaming services and things. So you can argue that the events themselves, overall, the houses are down. People aren't going out as much, especially during pandemic, but even before, people aren't attending live events as much as they should. But some of the top companies are making the most money they've ever made. So it's hit and miss. I don't know. I wish wrestling was more psychologically sound. I can appreciate what guys do with the less psychology and sometimes comedy and whatever. I don't fully enjoy it. It's not my cup of tea, but there is a place for it, I guess, these days, and that's great. As long as somebody is having a good time and people are making money and it's not really hurting anybody, I'm okay.
I believe, like you mentioned, houses are down, and TV's not doing what it was, and you hear the whole spiel of, well, people watch wrestling differently now. They watch it on demand, and a lot of people that like to give the 2 cents, they're always like, no, it's just the product's shit, or the product's just declining. There was some information that came out that just in 1 month across WWE's video services like YouTube, and I think it was literally YouTube alone, had 2 billion hits in 1 month.
Yeah. So, ratings on TV, people's attention spans, number one, aren't anything anymore. People have a hard time watching a 30-second TikTok video. And that's another problem for another day. But used to, when wrestling started really priming up and getting hot, there were, I don't know, 5-6 channels on the TV, and that was it. And so everybody was watching wrestling, and then they were programmed to go to the shows. That's all they've been watching on TV. Of course, they're going to buy tickets and go to the shows. As time has gone on, there's all these extra options. It grew to a point where there's hundreds of channels on TV, and so you divide all that. And the ratings are slowly dripping down. And then, there is still something though. When wrestling started trying to take away the psychology side of it and quit treating it as, I don't want to say like a shoot or anything, but when they started taking the seriousness out of programs that they were putting and building up, and started throwing in a little too much comedy or just silliness. That takes away from the big fight feel on a lot of the cards. And so I think that was a big problem too. But there's just so much for people to do now. Video games are massive. kids don't want to sit and watch a 3-hour Raw. They want to go play Fortnite or whatever with their friends, and that's just what it is. But they do have time to soak up a little bit of YouTube videos here and there, and ingest it that way. And the network, NBC over here in the States, they just bought the rights to the network for a ridiculous amount of money for like 5 years of exclusivity. So Vince isn't hurting. And I don't foresee WWE having any problems in the foreseeable future. If they do start having problems, Disney will be more than willing to buy them, I'm sure. So it's just a weird world, but there's something for everybody. There's ways to make money. What do you do?
No, I agree, and I think a lot of it is all these different news outlets, whether it's Meltzer or whoever.
Yeah.
And I always see people like, "Oh, that was obvious," and it's like, well, if you stop reading about what's going to happen, it may not be obvious. Like, I won't use. I don't like anything wrestling related on Facebook.
Yeah.
On Twitter, I don't really scroll through that often, and I don't really follow news sites because at the end of the day, I'm not going to go try and read spoilers of what's going to be in Endgame or the next Batman movie or anything like that. So, and I always remember one, and I think it summed me up when I was quite annoyed. Trish returned in wrestling and faced Charlotte, and somebody went, "That was obvious." That would not have been obvious if you didn't read it on the date sheets 2 months ago. If you stayed away from that, watched it live, you'd have popped because it's still Trish Stratus.
And you would have actually had an emotional investment and some entertainment as well. People are their own worst enemy. Wrestlers are their own worst enemy. All the wrestlers are just trying to entertain the rest of the boys in the back these days. And then the fans, they do their own thing where they try to just ruin it all for themselves and not have a fun product to watch anyway. So I don't get people anymore.
No, definitely not. But no, like it's been great talking, and hopefully, again, wrestling's going to be picking back up. And you mentioned you've got quite a few dates coming up. So what dates are those? Where can people find you if they're local to yourself?
Like I said, we have some weeks coming up it's like 3 or 4 a week. Best place to look is my Twitter and my Facebook. It's at Sigmon Wrestling, SIGMON Wrestling. I throw up a lot of I try not to post political. I try not to post I'll post about wrestling shows we're on and a little bit of video game stuff or something, fitness, whatever. That's it. I'm not going to sit and argue with people about things. But yeah, we've got a lot of really cool events for PWX and World Fighting Showcase and AMW Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Union in the Carolinas as well.
Yeah.
A lot of cool companies and places doing some fun stuff. But my social media is the best place to get the scoop on where we're at, because half the time I can't even remember where we're going the next day.
No, that's great. Well, thank you for coming on. Like, it's been great talking. Hopefully we'll get to do it again, especially if you do manage to come across here to Europe and come to the UK.
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
That'll be great. So everybody do make sure you go follow them on social media. And if you're wanting the Heatseekers at your local promotion, tweet it, let companies know. Make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe. Until next time, bye for now.
Friday morning, can't control